What's up, everybody? Weston here with the Hidden Gibbon, back with another Daily Deck Tech video. A rainy day here in Iowa, and we are back with another viewer request Deck Tech. And today, we have something I love, Stax. I love Stax. So without further ado, let's get straight into it, shall we? So we have Duskana, the Rage Mother here. And the viewer request was for Duskana, and to have Archon of Emeria and Collector Oof in the deck, and then to not have Triumph of the Hordes. So there is no Triumph of the Hordes in this deck today, friends. So we have Duskana, and she's a 5/5 for 2 generic and Naya. And you know what? I actually really like this art, and I love Naya colors, so I might have to build this deck myself. And when Duskana, the Rage Mother, enters the battlefield, draw a card for each creature you control with base power and toughness 2/2. And whenever a creature you control with power and toughness 2/2 attacks, it gets +3/+3 until end of turn. So we're going to play a bunch of hate bears, and I snuck in a couple of thematic bears in here. And then we're going to, stack some people out of the game, hit some people for some damage with our little beers, and that is what we're going to do. So how are we going to do that? Well, we've got 17 creatures in here. Not the most, this is important, not the most amount of creatures in the deck, but each one of them serves a valuable purpose. First, we have Archivist of Ogma, Flash, and whenever an opponent searches their library, you gain 1 life and draw a card. Pretty simple. Flash it in and make people sad for, searching their libraries for things like with fetch lands or tutors. We have Archon of Emeria, one of our required cards. It's a 2/3 for 3, flying, and each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. And non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. So it's a Rule of Law on a body. Rule of Law is an enchantment that does the same thing for each player in casting spells. And then also punishes people who play non-basics. I think especially cards that punish non-basics are great if you're playing on a budget, because it's a way to level the playing field, if you will. We have one of our 2 thematic bears that I put in here. Iula, Queen Among Bears. She has whenever another bear enters the battlefield under your control, choose 1. Put 2 1/1 counters on target bear, or target bear fights target creature you don't control. And the other one I put in here is Kudo, King Among Bears. Other creatures you control have base power and toughness 2/2 and are bears in addition to their other types. I don't know why they didn't give these cards partner. It makes me very sad. They could errata it. I do have a Rule 0 deck where they are partners. But I'm going to tell you, combining the 2 is actually extremely strong, because all of your creatures come in and you can just fight things. It's very funny. We have Collector Oof, the other card that was asked to be deliberately put in here. Collector Oof is a 2/2 for 2. Activated abilities of artifacts can't be activated. Pretty cool. Shuts down your opponent's soul rings, all chromatic lanterns, arcane signets, all of that stuff. Just shut it down, in the great words of Bar Rescue. We have ourselves Containment Priest. It's a 2/2 for 2 flash. If a non-token creature would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, exile it instead. So this is going to make it so your opponents can't cheat their stuff in. If somebody's going to be like, well, I'm going to sneak attack this, or I'm going to show and tell that, you know what? Containment Priest here is like, no, go to hell. You are not going to play that. We have Deep Gnome Terramancer. It's a flash, mold earth. Whenever 1 or more lands enter the battlefield under an opponent's control without being played, you may search your library for a plains card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Do it only once each turn. This card's really good, and I highly recommend, if you are a white player, that you play this in more of your decks. And it's still not the worst budget-wise, coming in at $12. Then we have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Gaddock Teague. Gaddock Teague is a 2/2 for 2. Non-creature spells with converted mana cost 4 or greater can't be cast. Get pooped on, big ol' spell slingers. And non-creature spells with X in their mana cost can't be cast. This card has saved me from getting Torment of Hail fired out of the game before. It was hilarious. He is a classic too, by the way. He doesn't see as much play nowadays, but he is just an absolute classic. We have Harsh Mentor, 2/2 for 2. Whenever an opponent activates the ability of an artifact or creature or land on the battlefield, if it's not a mana ability, Harsh Mentor pings them for 2. This gets a lot of legwork in for damage, and because nowadays a lot of creatures just have all of the abilities on them. Knight of the White Orchid. First strike, 2/2 for 2 white, and when Knight of the White Orchid enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more lands than you, you may search your library for a Plains card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It's some catch-up ramp. We have ourselves Kudo, King Among Bears. Kudo, oh my god, this is what I get for recording in the morning, friends. Ignore this, we already went over Kudo. We have Kutzel, Malamet Exemplar. It's a cat, not a bear. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. This helps you do a thing without your opponents being able to stop you. Then, whenever one or more creatures you control, each with power greater than its base power, deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. So this is really strong in conjunction with your Duskana, because she's going to give your stuff +3/+3, because we have all of these little hate bears in here. See, all these little guys are 2/2s. These will all get pumped up. As I was saying with Kutzel, it goes very, very well with our Duskana. We then have Leonin Arbiter, which is players can't search their libraries, and any player may pay 2 for that player to ignore this effect until end of turn. This is really important that some of these cards do shut each other off, so be very strategic about when you're going to play this, right? You don't want Leonin Arbiter out there at the same time as Archivist of Ogma, right? You just don't want that. We have ourselves some Magus of the Moon. Non-basic lands are mountains. This does make the deck a bracket 4 because it does hit lands. Mass Land and I'll. We have Manglehorn, which is a 2/2 for 3. When it enters the battlefield, pop an artifact. And artifacts your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. Mentor of the Meek. When another creature you control enters with a power 2 or less, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. Scavenging Ooze, a classic. Man, I used to see this all the time in Legacy. It's a 2/2 for 2, and you can pay 1 green, exile a card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, put a 1/1 counter on this creature, and you gain 1 life. And then White Orchid Phantom. Flying first strike 2/2, and when it enters, destroy up to 1 target non-basic land. Blow up somebody's Gaia's Cradle. Its controller may search your library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. I have played this and popped somebody's Field of the Dead, and they weren't running basics in their library, so they failed to find. It was very, very funny for me. Not so funny for them. For our sorceries, we are running some Cultivate type effects and Ramp. We have Cultivate, Rampant Growth, Kodama's Reach. We do have Time of Need in here, which is from Champions of Kamigawa, which is search your library for a legendary creature card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle. It's a legendary tutor. It's pretty funny. We have Dusk and Dawn. Dusk, destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. Dawn is return all creatures with power 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. The Dawn part has Aftermath, so you can only cast it from your graveyard. We have Raise the Past, return all creature cards with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, because people are going to pop your dudes, because people do not like Stax or Hate Bears. We do have an X casting cost spell in here, so don't run this with Gaddock Teague. Create X 2/2 white warrior creature, white soldier creature tokens with vigilance. If X is 10 or more, also create X 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance. This gets you a whole bunch of regular bears. Instance, we have ourselves Beast Within for removal, as well as Chaos Warp, Erode, Stroke of Midnight, Path to Exile, Generous Gift, and Swords to Plowshares. Quite a good amount of spot removal. We do have Flare of Fortitude in here, and Unbreakable Formation to give ourselves some protection for our creatures. Kind of making it so they are indestructible. The budget for this was $200, so I couldn't put like T-Pro and stuff in here. And I already broke the budget by 14, but I figure 14 bucks isn't too bad to break it. We have Conjurer's Closet, so at the beginning of your end step, exile a creature, and then return it to the battlefield. Do this with Duskana and lets you draw some cards, all that fun stuff. We have Crawl Space, so no more than 2 creatures can attack you each combat. We have Meek Stone, creatures with power 3 or greater don't untap during their controller's untap step. This is really funny because your creatures will get beefed up by Duskana, and then they will lower in power and will be able to untap. We do have 3 talismans in here. This is very important that if you have Collector Oof in play, this will shut them off. Enchantments. We have a lot. We have Assemble the Players. Look at the top card of your library once each turn. You may cast a creature spell with power 2 or less from the top of your library. 1 second. As I was saying, we have Assemble the Players. Look at the top card of your library at any time. Once each turn, you may cast a creature spell with power 2 or less from the top of your library. We have Authority of the Consuls. Creatures your opponents control enter tapped, and whenever a creature an opponent controls enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Blind Obedience does kind of the same thing. It has Extort, so whenever you play a spell, you can pay a black or a white to have an opponent lose a life, and you gain a life. And then artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. We got the classic Blood Moon in here. All non-basic lands are mountains. We have Deafening Silence. Each player can't cast more than 1 non-creature spell each turn. Elephant Grass, cumulative upkeep. Black creatures can't attack you, just straight up can't. Non-black creatures can't attack you unless they pay 2, so it's like green Ghostly Prison for you. Felidar Retreat, landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, you can make a 2/2 cat or put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Make the 2/2 cat. You don't want to make your creatures too big because we have things like Meekstone in here. We have Freyalise's Winds. Whenever a permanent becomes tapped, put a wind counter on it. Permanents with any wind counters on them do not untap during their controller's untap step. Instead, remove all wind counters. So it's like a stun counter maker. Ghostly Prison. They can't attack you unless they pay 2. Ground Seal. When it enters, draw a card. I also love the art on this. Cards in graveyards can't be the target of spells or abilities. We have Nature's Revolt. This can turn all of your lands into 2/2s. This is how we're going to overrun. We don't have Triumph of the Horde, so we're going to animate our lands. We have Price of Glory. Whenever a player taps a land for mana during another player's turn, destroy that land. Primal Order. I love this card. I'm glad I picked up a bunch of these. During each player's upkeep, Primal Order deals 1 damage to that player for each non-basic land he or she controls. We have Privileged Position, which other permanents you control have hexproof. Pair that with Sterling Grove, which is other enchantments you control have hexproof. Or sorry, Shroud, so like these would both have protection. They wouldn't be indestructible, but they have protection. Solemnity, players can't get counters. Counters can't be put on artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or lands. Don't have this with Freyalise's Winds. But you can have it so that way this doesn't get age counters. Because, fun fact for you, cumulative upkeep puts age counters on things. So if you have it locked at 1, then you only ever have to pay 1. It's very cool. Sphere of Safety. Creatures can't attack you or planeswalkers you control unless their controller pays X for each of those, where X is the number of enchantments you control. We have a lot of enchantments. Teleportation Circle. At the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 target artifact or creature you control, then return it to the battlefield. This is also a super cheap version because all the Turtles art stuff seems to be really cheap. Tocastia's Welcome. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control with mana value 3 or less enter, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. For lands, we do have our budget fetches right here, and that. And then we are running 2 non-basics, and then we are running, 26, 34 basic lands. We are running a lot of lands in this deck, 41. I know the mana curve is low, but the idea is to get a lot of them, so that way we can Nature's Revolt. So, that's the build, good old Stax. Your opponents will barely be able to stand this deck. I know, I'm terrible. I get it. I love my puns, though. So, let's look at some hands, shall we? We're over here. We'll zoom out a little bit. Boop, boop. Look at that. So we zoom out, and we have our hand. We have Time of Need. We have Mountain, Command Tower, this sort of stuff, right? I think we will draw for our turn. We'll drop Command Tower down, and we will pass turn. We come to our turn again, and look at that. We draw an Iula, Queen Among Bears. This is pretty fun. We're going to drop a Plains, though, and we are going to Rampant Growth. And we're going to view our library, and we are going to get a Forest, because we want to play our Iula and Kudo on the same turn. Next turn, we draw a card. This is pretty spiffy. We're going to drop a Mountain, And we are going to drop Iula, Queen Among Bears. And then we are going to drop Kudo, King Among Bears. Alright, so we've got these two bears out here. And when Kudo enters, we're going to say that there probably isn't a whole lot on the battlefield. So what we're going to do is we are actually going to put 2/1/1 counters on him. I know in the deck tech I said don't do this a whole lot, but we are going to do that. So we put 2 counters on Kudo, so he's a 4/4 bear. Then we're going to end our turn. We draw. We'll put this Sheltering Landscape into play. And we're not going to crack it yet this turn because we are going to run out our bear lady. Go get him, Duskana. So Duskana comes into play. She's a bear. So she gets to fight or get counters on it. And but first, when she enters the battlefield, draw a card for each creature you control, base power, toughness 2/2. Oh, look. Everything's a 2/2, including her now. So we draw 3. Look at that. We've refilled our hand, and we are going to have Kudo fight someone's creature. See, because he's a 4/4 now. Now, we're going to take our next turn. This is a turn where we can do a lot of setup. So we're going to drop another forest. I'm going to go ahead and drop down our Ghostly Prison. I'm going to go ahead and drop Talisman of Conviction, and I'm going to pop our Sheltering Landscape, and we're going to view our library, and we are going to grab ourselves a mountain. Now, we have a 4/4 bear right here that we can attack with, which is pretty good. Let me go ahead and attack. Next turn, draw. We have Raise Past, and this is just how this deck gets here, right? Like, we drop down that. Let's go ahead and tutor up a legendary creature. View library. Who do we want? That's the real question here. I think Gaddock Teague is probably... Yeah, we're going to get Gaddock Teague. And then drop our Gaddock Teague down. Gaddock Teague is a 2/2 bear. We're going to have Kudo fight somebody else's 2/2 bear. Alright, awesome. Then we're going to swing away, Meryl. There we go. No more than 2 creatures can attack you. So look at that. Next turn, we draw. We're getting a lot of lands here, but it's fine. We're able to get there. So let's try another one. 41 lands, friends, and we got a 1-lander. See, this is what happens sometimes. Here, we have a 2-land hand. This is a perfectly acceptable and keepable hand. So we're going to draw for our turn. We're going to drop a Plains. Next turn, we're going to drop a Forest. And we are not going to play Rampant Growth this turn because early game people are going to fetch, right? So we're going to say during an opponent's turn that they crack a fetch. We're going to respond with Archivist of Ogma. And so we're going to gain a life and right there. And then we draw a card off of the Archivist of Ogma. And then we get to commence our next turn. We go ahead and we drop a mountain down. This is fine because then now we can Rampant Growth. What do we have the most of in our hand? We have have the need for lots of white and green pips. We have more white in our hand, so we are going to grab a Plains, close and shuffle. That comes into play tapped, and we still have mana up for Erode if needed. Next turn, we draw Myriad Landscape. It enters tapped. We have 4 lands in play. We are going to go ahead and drop our Mentor of the Meek. And we will pass turn. So, now, on this turn, we can either, drop Duskana, which, we could, or we're going to do something else. We are going to tap for 2. We're going to pop our Myriad Landscape. We are going to grab a Forest, and we're going to grab... We're going to grab another Plains. We're going to close and shuffle. These enter tapped. And then we are going to play Assemble the Players. So I can look at the top card of my library at any time and play it if it's 2/2. Next turn, we draw. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 lands. But there we go. That's what it is. But yeah, that's how this goes. We'll just drop Duskana. Sorry for all the pauses this video, friends. My daughter is snacking on some popcorn and needed some more. So we're gonna do that and drop a land for the turn. Drop a Meek Stone. Fantastic. So you see how the deck goes. It's pretty cool. I like it. I think I might build this in paper because I am a filthy Stax enjoyer. But if you want to see your commander made into a deck tech, drop it in the comments down below. As always, I'm Wes with the Hidden Gibbon, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.